Yes, guys, welcome back to the Once You're In podcast. This is episode number 80. That's 80 weeks of Oyiyi. Can we call it
Tom,
Oyiyi? Is that caught on
yeah,
yet?
yeah, 80 weeks of us, mate.
80 weeks
Mental.
of Oyiyi. And to be fair, I
80
think
weeks.
we thought for quite a while before that we should have done a podcast. Imagine where we'd be if we'd have started it like, what, maybe a year before, maybe 6 months before.
Well, mate, we probably like add 50, so probably like 130. I mean,
No, I
imagine.
mean, like, where would we be? I don't mean just what episode we'd be on.
Yeah, I mean, it came. You were doing your own podcasts, weren't you? You had FKFM that was just fucking dire, absolutely awful.
Mate, FKFM is an incredible name.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing
When
at
I
all.
made that name up, I was like, oh my God, I'm a
No,
genius.
and then you were like, no, this isn't doing very well. I need to
No,
drop
but it
three.
wasn't for that. It wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to get like it was basically to educate clients that I already had. And it was like just very basic. And like it's quite good actually, because I have clients now who are like, oh, I found your old podcast and it really helped me understand this or that. So if anybody wants some very basic knowledge on things like macronutrients and training, etc., FKFM, that's your place to go. This is not as much as this is an educational podcast. It is,
No,
you know what I mean? It's like we do cover things, but
blend.
most of the time we're taking the piss. Most of our answers are sarcastic with some actual relevance to the question.
Yeah, I'd say it's just me and you just having a chat. I think that's how it works. That's what works well with it. But yeah, I know. Obviously, when we started, mate, it was in the last lockdown, which is mental to think 80 weeks because it was the last lockdown. Feels like it's been, I don't know, time's been a bit strange since then. I feel like, but yeah, I remember because we were training and you were like, I think we should do a podcast, and I was like, yeah, sound cool. And then we were like, what day do you want to do it on? And I think we've always done it on Thursday, haven't we? It's always been Thursday.
Yeah, but we've had Thursday and Sunday as our rest days for however long.
Yeah, the longest.
When we trained 4 times, what was our other rest day? Monday, Tuesday. No,
mate. I think we trained. We trained Thursday. No, did we do? We had Monday training. It was Monday. Was it Monday, Thursday?
I'm sure
Sunday?
it was.
No, we didn't have Monday as a rest day because we had Sunday as a rest day, didn't we?
We had Sunday as a rest day. We trained Monday. We had Tuesday off. We trained Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, Friday off.
It was like Saturday. No, because we didn't train both weekend days.
No.
Oh, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, that's right. Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Monday on, Tuesday off. Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday. Mate, that's
no, who knows?
Yeah. We trained at 4 times per week frequency during the lockdowns because we originally planned to train 6 times per week.
I think it was Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday that we trained.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, I think that was. Yeah, I think that was how it worked. And then after we kind of came out of the gyms, or came out of lockdown, we were back in the gyms.
After we came out of the closet together, we started training.
Yeah, that's when we started training 5 times per week. Because before we did 4 times. But like I said, we originally planned in the lockdown period to do 6 times per week, and I think we did 3 sessions on the trot.
I think we did 1 rotation, didn't we? And we were like, fucked, absolutely battered.
Yeah, we did push pull legs, and we were like, okay, we'll only do like 5 exercises per session. We'll keep the session volume pretty low. We planned it and we did literally 1 rotation. And because of all the free weight movements, we were like, yeah.
How long did we spend on FaceTime as well? And we weren't even really mates then, were we? Like, we trained together in the past. And I remember it was lockdown and I was desperate and I was like, right, who can I find that's going to let me train?
Hey, that's the only reason why we're here now is because you were like, oh, fuck, I have to train for Reece. Fuck's sake.
So I was like, hey, bro, how's things? Just to think of it, you have some equipment, don't you?
Yeah, you have some equipment that you've just put on your story like an hour ago. Any chance I could train with you again? Yeah. We trained together for we only really knew each other.
Mate, you'd have only had Hubert, so you'd be thanking me. You'd have been booked on every lift. You'd have had Hubert spotting you for everything.
Mate, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be dead. I would think I would have probably killed myself. I'd have been stuck under a barbell, and Hubert would have just been.
Or you'd have deliberately killed yourself by just training with Hubert.
Yeah. To be fair, mate, I hit a year's worth of coaching with Hubert now, and
he's come on loads to be fair to him, hasn't he?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, he's come on massively. It's been a real good project. And I said to him, like, I actually said on his check-in today, like, when you started, it's been a year and it doesn't even feel like I've coached you that long because he was, like, for example, when we trained with him, it was like training with someone who's probably only trained for like 3 months. Like, he didn't know how to really.
Like, he put the effort in. It wasn't that he didn't train hard. It was like he was just very inaccurate, wasn't he? And like it was, like you see it all the time. Like people train hard, but the effort isn't directed very well.
Yeah, we'll give a bit of a background.
The effort is into punching the door.
Yeah. No, because no one will know who Hubert is. So Hubert's one of my clients who was originally like one of my like real close friends. He still is. He's a good mate. And pretty much during the first lockdown, he was at Loughborough for uni. But I said to him, "Oh, cool, like you can stay with me. It makes sense. It was closer to where he was for uni. And obviously we didn't really know what was happening with the first lockdown. So this was like 3 years ago. And I obviously could train. I had like a little gym setup that I crafted. And I was like, so you can train with us. And then obviously, like, we all kind of trained together. And me and Finn had trained before. We were 5, 6, 7 years into training, and Hubert was like 6 months. And the thing is with Hubert, like what we said is like he actually kept up intensity wise, but he just wasn't accurate at all. So there was plenty of sets that we'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? But he'd just go balls to the wall. And it was like, it actually probably made it slightly less, it made it probably more fun for the period that he was training with us, because it was like me and Finn were, even back then, we were still quite meticulous. We were training to an okay standard, not as good as we do now, but still okay.
I was prepping. Like it wasn't like it was that long ago, really, in the grand scheme.
No, and Hubert was just like, right, let me fucking go.
I remember like he'd get up. We'd train. What time would we train? We'd train at like 1, and he'd get up at 12.
Yeah.
And then he'd he'd
get up at 12.
He'd quickly eat and then be throwing up his pre-workout meal. But like he didn't get, it's like he didn't switch on until like the last exercise. So we were like ready to train from the get-go. So like we were like switched on for the compounds, the actually demanding movements. And then like a lateral raise at the end, he'd be like, let's go. Head on. And he'd like headbutt the wall or whatever. Like, what the fuck?
I remember he failed a set or something, or like we were all flat benching. And
I don't even think he failed it. He was just it was like one of them where you fail a flat bench where you shouldn't because you misgroove a rep or whatever.
And then he got up and punched the wall.
He was the door. He punched the door.
And then he cut his hand, and we both just looked at him like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And then he was almost like acting like we wanted sympathy, to be like, "Oh my god, mate, your hand's fucked." But like, what have you done? Why have you done that? Yeah. And then
I feel like we must have told these stories before. Yeah, we'd surely have told the story where he pressed off his nose.
No, I don't think we ever told that. Yeah, this is again Hubert. I don't know how we remember this, but
Hubert, there was sorry, mate, if you're listening.
There was a high incline press set, mate, you did once, and
no, it wasn't. I think it wasn't. It was a flat bench. That's what made it worse.
Well, he pressed off his. I thought it was a high incline at least.
I'm sure. Nah, it was. It might have been a low incline, but yeah. He controlled it down, and like the thing is, he was absolutely flying as well. Like he probably had another 5 reps in the tank, and then he controlled it down. He misgrooved it a bit. It landed on his nose, and it like actually like we watched it. It was like in slow motion. If people on YouTube, it literally like went off his nose, and then he pressed it back up.
And he didn't laugh or anything. We both just like looked at each other. He finished the set, and I was like, Hubert, you know that bounced off your nose? And he was like, did it? We were like, yes. It literally compressed your nose inwards by like an inch, and then it bounced off.
It would have been so good if we'd have been able to film. Well, we were able to film, but if we had have filmed, like, if we'd have had a videographer at those times,
because
like every session.
What we said at the start, like, we weren't even really mates at that point. Like, we were like, we'd speak occasionally on Instagram. Like, we weren't really like, it was literally just like, oh, cool. If I'm like, we got a session in or two when I was home from uni. But like, I remember when the gyms reopened, it was almost a bit like, oh shit, are we going to train together? And then it's just been like that since. You know, it wasn't really like beforehand. We trained together for like a few months here or there, pissed each other off. And then you obviously just tried to get your way back into training with me. That's what it was, because you just wanted to use me.
Yeah, you were my last resort. I'd asked everybody else, and it just thought, fucking hell, I'm going to have to go with Reece. Can't remember who else had equipment.
Mate, not many people did, because it was the first lockdown. I only bought stuff because my mum, to be fair, I think she probably bought it, if I'm honest. But
shock.
Like, she was warning me. She was like, Reece, they're going to close the gyms to get some kit. I'm not too sure, mate, if my Wi-Fi, your 3G is pretty poor, but I think the internet might be a little bit sloppy.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi is sound. I think it's yours, mate.
I'm on 4G, so Sanai's Wi-Fi is horrendous, so I've just hotspotted my phone. But yeah, that was the story in the first lockdown, mate.
It was, mate. And I was thinking then, who at the time had equipment? And I feel like I was literally thinking of even going back home and like buying equipment and putting it in my mum and dad's garage back at home. But obviously at the time it was like very up and down as to whether or not I'd still be working at Pure Gym. And well, obviously whether or not the gyms were like able to still go in as a PT or not. We didn't know like what the crack was, or whether I was going to do like outdoor sessions with clients and shit like that. And then obviously I'd have been leaving Shannon here, so that's why I didn't end up doing that. But yeah, could have done that.
That was a weird time, wasn't it? Like really weird when you think about it. Like the last lockdown, I don't feel like felt like that long ago in the sense of time. And we were coaching, we'd had like that period in between, and that was 2 years ago at this point. Like if you think about it, it was 2 years ago since we were training, you know, and we actually optimized the gym, we got the cable set up. And then literally, if you think about it, like that was just before I started prep, which is crazy because I feel like it's not been that long. Like I feel like your prep's been quite a long while away from when I think about it. But my prep, I'm like, huh? What?
Yeah, it feels like a year ago.
Yeah. Well, it's only it's like 19, 20 months since I finished. But yeah, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. So yeah, all good, mate. How's your week been? Anything to update us upon? Anything to chat about? I enjoyed that. What we're going to call the podcast, mate? Pot of lockdown, reminiscence of lockdown.
I don't know. I was saying before we started, wasn't I? I was like, the podcast that we have like a proper title, they do better than the podcast where it's just like Reece is a pedo or Reece reveals all, as it was called. So maybe we need to think of a topic that we can actually call it, or maybe one of the questions. I think when we get a good question and then we answer that question, usually those titles are a bit better. Usually we get more engagement. While we're on engagement, should we have a look?
What Spotify ratings? Sanaya has actually finally rated the Spotify. Like,
what did she rate it?
I think she must have rated a 5-star.
Well, we put on our stories the other day, didn't we? That we needed like 6 more to get. What was it? 6 more?
Yeah, but I don't know, mate. I feel like people are just zombies when it comes to stories. They just flick through them. They don't actually read them. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say we've hit 250. I haven't checked it since then.
I'm gonna say 251. That's what I'm gonna go with.
I'll go 253.
Okay, let's have a look. Well, drum roll, please. Have you guys delivered?
You checked it, haven't you? 251.
Sound? I'll take that. I haven't checked it.
251. That's pretty good, that.
Mate, I feel like you're more impressed by the ratings every time than I am. Like, I'm always like, yes, sound. And you're like, that's amazing. Thanks, guys.
I think, like, honestly, people don't rate things very often. You know what I mean? It's like, even like subscribers
I don't
on
remember
YouTube.
liking YouTube. You know when someone says like if YouTube, I'm like, no.
Yeah,
sorry.
Exactly. Like you know, I think rating a Spotify podcast is the same thing. Even subscribing on YouTube, like if you were to look at how many people will watch a video versus how many of those are probably subscribed, it's like not the percentage isn't going to be massive. So I feel like we've got quite a large percentage of listeners who have rated the podcast, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
No. I'm surprised we've not got a sponsorship deal yet.
What do we need? Do we need to find a supplement sponsor that sponsors?
No, I mean like Spotify. I'm surprised Spotify haven't called us and told us to come and film it in their HQ.
What, they say, oh guys, you're doing so well in the fitness.
Yeah, once you're in your sign and everything. We do need to do
that's what
we spoke about it numerous times.
Yeah, we need to. Me and Finn this year, I need to actually get on top of our stuff other than just being okay at coaching.
That's being so hard. Is that it's just having any spare time outside of just coaching or doing this.
Yeah.
But even then, this is what like just over an hour once a week, although a bit longer for me.
Entirely. Like
I have to upload it. Oh, sorry, guys, as well for my fuck up last week. I uploaded half of one podcast and half of another one, so I do apologise for that. Looks like Reece's Wi-Fi is awful.
It's not my. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, it's the 3G. I think it's just a little bit inconsistent. Sanaya's Wi-Fi is awful, so I'm hotspotted from my phone, to my laptop.
This is why you shouldn't stay at Sanaya's, mate. This is why you should never stay at Sanaya's.
I need to become unsociable again, like I was last prep, and towards the end, be like, nope, I'm not coming around. You got to come to me if I'm seeing you. But to be fair, I brought my treadmill. It's been sound. I got the exercise bike here that I used this morning. I did actually the stairs yesterday. My legs, my glutes are fucking ruined. I'm not doing that again. Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to get your heart rate up and keep your heart rate up. Like it's just literally, I find the stairs so easy to do, but it just fucking like the next day my glutes are ruined. I did the stairs 6 days in a row when I was in Canada, just literally post workout like 20 minutes, and like by the end of it I was like, I can't even move. My hips are fucked. Like mate, you'd be disabled if you were to do the Stairmaster.
So I don't do it. I find it mental that people actually choose that as their form of cardio. And I don't mean that from like, oh, it's so hard. Like that I couldn't care less how hard it is. It's that it's literally probably the most demanding from a joint perspective, unless you're doing something stupid like hill sprints or whatever, like on a terrain where you're going to roll your ankle all the time. But like,
mate, I didn't you say the other day you were under on your steps, so you went for a 20-minute sprint?
Yeah, 20-minute sprint down the canal as well.
You were like, oh, I'm under my steps.
Just for the thrill of maybe falling in. It's a bit slippy. But no, I just think, like, I always say to clients, like, bike, either spin bike, recumbent bike, cross trainer, maybe even incline walk on a treadmill. Like, they're literally the main forms of cardio that I'd go for. Because otherwise, you're just battering yourself for no reason.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Swimming actually is what I recommend to my clients.
Yeah. And Apple Watches, they work perfectly because they're like, I think this band I've got was designed for swimming, which I find so weird. I couldn't ever imagine going into a swimming pool with like a watch on my wrist, like an Apple Watch.
I don't even think I wouldn't want to wear my Oura ring.
No chance. I'm taking it off. It's very strange.
You take your Oura ring off to wash your hands.
Yeah, I do, mate. I don't anymore. Actually, I've started keeping it on. Before I thought it. I look at it and I'm like, this doesn't look waterproof.
It shouldn't go underwater. I was like that when I first got mine.
Yeah, certain things. It's like, you know, when like your phone is like water resistant, but like if you were to spill water on it, you'd go, oh shit, let me get my phone away from the water.
I don't think phones are water resistant. Like as soon as whenever I go on a walk, if it's a bit wet, if it's raining a little bit, because like I'm always working on my phone while I'm walking. Like I'll try and keep it as close to my body with my hood up and stuff. Like I get a tiny bit of water on it and my phone's fucked for the next like however many hours, and I can't charge it or anything. It's like, oh great.
Yeah, but no, fair enough. So yeah, all good. I'm now deeper into prep. From what I can tell, I'm actually starting to notice a few signs. AKA, I've got lower carbs, mate, on my non-training days than Beth has on her training days, and she was like, "That's low." I'm like, "No, it's not." Yeah, no. She asked me my macros earlier on rest days. I told her, and she's like, "You want less carbs than me on a training day?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm not training." What? And she was like, "You're not hungry?" I'm like, "No, I'm sound. I'm fine."
Did you tell her about me?
Yeah, no, I mentioned to her. I said I was like, honestly, when I was at my lowest point on my tidy up, I think I was like, no, I had a few no carb days. Finn was doing 25 carb a day on non-train days, and then like I think again, it's all perception. Like when you're fat, you can get away with, like we've said, you were on 25 carb for like what 4 or 5 weeks on rest days.
More than that, probably like 8 weeks. It was relatively quick that I got my food like dropped pretty quickly. Because I was like, I'm fat, I might as well just be aggressive, and it works. So I think I lost over 3 pounds every week that I did that.
3 pounds of muscle.
I think it was about half and half. About 1.5 pounds of muscle lost, but 1.5 pounds of fat. No, 1.5 pounds of fluid. I didn't lose any fat in that phase.
No. That's why you should have run a maintenance phase, so you could drop off.
I was just too fatigued before the diet. So I went into the diet and I just lost all muscle, gained fat, and even now I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How many weeks? I'm 7 weeks out from start of prep, but I don't know whether do I have a maintenance phase again. What do I do?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Surely I don't want to eat more food or anything. Like, surely that's
book a consult, mate. Book a consult with someone. They'll tell you everything, even though they won't have any actual information or data. They'll say this is what you need to do. Plan this in, and then your start date. Do you know your official start date yet, bro? The exact date, the exact hour.
Yeah.
Do you actually? Have you got it planned, or have you just got?
Mate, I planned it ages ago, but it might change.
Yeah. Like I think I've had, obviously I'm guessing you've been having calls with clients for like prep for this year. Like I've said to them, like, it's within this time frame. Like I can't give you we're going to be starting on March the 3rd, and this is going to be the exact.
I've pretty much said like this is the projected date that will start. So it might be a few days, before that, few days after that, depending on how things go. If people are a bit slack in the phase after the pre-prep diet and they gain a bit quickly, then we'll start a bit soon. If people are really on it and let's say, we're struggling to gain weight and we're just adding food, then maybe we'll push theirs back a little bit. It's kind of just play it by how they're managing that little phase. Because it's quite difficult. Like for a lot of people, the phase between the pre-prep diet and the actual prep beginning is quite a difficult phase. I think a lot of people during that time, it's almost a bit of like a balancing act because you're thinking, well, I'm going into a prep, so I want to be able to enjoy some off-plan meals before I go into the prep, and I want to be able to, socialize more and things like that. But then you're also thinking, but I don't want to get slack and just end up getting fat, or if I don't want to be slack with my nutrition because then I'm not being able to really work it up too much before the prep begins. Like, so it is like, it's quite a difficult phase.
How hunger hormones work, especially like even tidy ups, like little pre-prep diets. Anyway, most people I've found are usually hungrier like after that than they are after like a
you will be.
diet. Like an aggressive fat loss phase is usually your hunger levels going to be stupidly high after. Like if you could easily run like, let's say, a 12 to 16 week normal sort of fat loss phase, and again, not going to be ideal in a situation like this, and afterwards you can be like, okay, cool, my hunger signal isn't that high. You run like a 6 to 8 week aggressive phase, afterwards you're going to be fucking very, very hungry, like most cases, just with how ghrelin and leptin work. So yeah, it's that almost challenge. And then also the stress of thinking like, oh, I'm starting a prep, so yeah.
I can hear you, but you've completely frozen. I can hear you. I can hear your sound, but you're frozen. You're back now.
Yeah, mate. I was talking, and you just were looking down, and I was like, "He's either on his phone or I froze."
I think it was a bit of both. I'm doing the timestamps on my phone. But yeah, like I was just about to say that I had Millie's check in today, and she was like, "Yeah, appetite's really high," and I was like, "I think she's 6.5 weeks from starting the prep." And I was like, okay, so appetite's really high. I was like, that's not great. I was like, for where we are right now, I was like, before prep, I was like, I don't want you to be like appetite crazy high before prep begins. So we still got plenty of time, and her food's like nearly peak off season food already. So like, yeah, I think it does work really well. Like for a lot of clients, it's been very similar to myself. Like giving them enough time, got lean, like let's say for the back end of last year, then they've got 4 to 6 months to work food up. And during that time, like get your food up to probably close to or the highest it's ever been, while not really gaining too much fat. Let's say or too much body weight. Let's say you gain 5 to maybe 15 pounds, depending on how lean they were at the end of the diet. Like for example, like Niall, there he's in a really good spot. Like his food is getting higher. His body weight is still it's still rising gradually, but it's under control. Like. So yeah, like it's definitely worth it. It's like, for example, like Niall, even Millie, to be fair, if we just kept pushing them up and then started a prep from there, we'd have already had to start by now, maybe even sooner. Especially with the first prep as well. And again, like I said, from like what we learned last year with clients, and just experience with practicing dieting with clients, it makes such a massive difference. I always say now that when clients sign up, and like I said to you, if we get people that want to sign up now for this year's prep, like I'm probably more inclined to say no. I'd rather say I'd rather you wait and us do maybe next year, or like even if it's somebody who's like already in a great spot. Like for example, Matt, like when Butcher's Wet Dream came to me, I was like, right, yeah, he's already in a great spot. He's already he's not far off stage condition. He'd been coached perfectly prior to then. So I was like, yeah, cool. I'll just take the credit, mate, from Piad. It was Piad. Piad still exists, mate. Yeah, he's still a thing.
Yeah, Piad still exists. Like I said, blocked me. I don't know if I've said that. Jack Piad's blocked me on Instagram. I haven't engaged with Jack Piad on Instagram for about 2 years. And then someone sent me something that he was tagged in, and I saw, oh, Piad, like, is he still going? Is he still a thing?
Is he still a thing?
Yeah, blocked. So I don't know. Maybe he just blocked me randomly, but yeah, that's an exciting bloke. I'm to be fair play to him. He's still carrying on, and like he's still cracking on with coaching. Some bad things came out that we're just going to go into. So yeah,
I'll probably come out with you soon, based on last week's episode.
No, but mine's actually self-inflicted. His is from other people coming out and saying.
Yeah, you're better off telling those stories yourself, and then people go.
Yeah, and then when someone
open and honest about it.
Yeah, when someone goes, "Oh, Reece, I saw that something popped up with you," like, I spoke about it before. I came out, I fronted it. It's not anyone else
bringing it up. All right, just stop bringing it up.
I've exposed myself. It was years ago. I'm a different person.
Expose yourself to those children.
Do you reckon I could do a bullshit thing about me going to therapy and wanting to work upon myself and all that stuff?
Is that thingy? What was his name? Yannick.
Yeah, like I'm working upon being a better person,
I saw
aka
his. I saw a post of his come up the other day, and I think his name's changed. Like I saw the name, different
change
name.
his name,
His name is
like,
like,
or just change,
huh?
what has he changed his actual name, or has he
Nah, I
just
think
changed?
he's just changed his Instagram name. Maybe he has changed his legal name,
Yeah,
so he didn't get locked up.
yeah,
But no, it's like changed it to like coached by Jan, I think. And I saw it, and it was like a reel, and it had been on for like hours. I think I'd like. I remember thinking when I was probably getting into coaching that he was like a really successful coach, and that like
yeah,
he was doing really really well. And I remember he used to have like probably get quite a lot of engagement, and like obviously he was doing well. But like I'm sure the reel had been up for like probably a good like 6 hours or something. I think he had like 4 likes on it, and I was thinking like, imagine that, like the downfall. I know it's not just about likes, of course it's not, but that's a big indicator of how your business has gone.
yeah. Yeah, when you start seeing like engagement drop off significantly, like majorly, and you're like, maybe it's me, maybe I'm the reason why. Like, and again, I think that's part of it. Fitness industry is like that. Like, how many people do we know that like they'll blow up and they'll be the flavor of the month, and then 6 months later, because they weren't acting themselves or they were fucking bellends behind the scenes, that they're not really a thing, you know? And it's like, it's a shame, but it's
It's going to be you soon, mate. As
yeah,
soon as
it's
you
gonna
get exposed and you don't win your pro card because you're actually not very good and you just use structure on all your Instagram posts, that's
yeah.
when you're gonna lose all your followers, mate.
Oh, they're all going to unfollow me. Oh, I've lost so much respect for Reece.
You're gonna get beat by Jack Eagles again.
Yeah, that would be the fight. That would end my bodybuilding career. That'd be it. I'm done. I've got beat by Jack Eagles again. I'm done. That'd be it. What I'll do is I'll do what he did. I'll just go to hospital, take a photo of me in a hospital bed, like a day out for me competing against him, and then just step on stage still, get destroyed, and be like, I've got an excuse for the reason why
Yeah.
I prepped.
All right. I was really ill. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really ill. AKA, I just went to the hospital and said, "Can I just jump in the bed, please? Take a
I'll pay
photo."
any money, honestly.
Yeah. Honestly, I just need to go into a hospital bed so I can take a photo. Imagine that. That'd be hilarious. You know, you've spilled or you've just like fucked
I
up your
just need
diet,
an
and you're like,
excuse. I need
yeah,
something,
you need
please.
it. You're thinking, right? How?
You
And then you're
start
like, oh,
beating yourself up, stab yourself in the
yeah.
stomach. Ah, I got the stabs.
Or you think to yourself like, oh fuck, everyone knows my dad's dead. I can't really lie about my mum. My granddad. Never really mentioned my granddad. Granddad's
Yeah.
died a day out from my show.
Loads of
Stresses too. Like,
stress.
my granddad's fine.
Still competing though. People go, "Oh, fair play to you for still competing when your granddad died."
Yeah,
Oh, no.
yeah. Meanwhile, granddad's fine, or you just make up a family member or something like that. That'd be funny. Like I've said to you, my pec, I've got a bit of a pec strain. So now if my chest is shit, I've got an excuse. I started pec prep and I couldn't press effectively. So that's gonna be one of them. So yeah, do you want to get
Same
into some
with
questions, mate?
yeah, we can do. I was gonna say that's same with my hip, mate. That's why I've been mentioning
Yeah,
it now and again, just drip feeding it in here and there so that everybody knows that I've not been
stoking the
100%
fire.
fit. Not been 100% fit the whole off season. That's why I'm going to look the same when I compete again.
Exactly. Right, cool. So, did you get any good ones, mate? I know you said you didn't really get many.
I'm doing the timestamps, mate. I can't get it up yet. You're gonna have to
Okay.
you're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to go
Well,
and
I've actually got quite a good one. This probably will last us a fair few minutes. From Dave, I was going to say David. Is not. Is my client. I think it's Dawid. Dawid with a W.
it'll be David.
David, yeah, like he's Polish, so I'm not too sure. But either way, he's asked one fitness trend you hate that has come about since you started training. So, mate, what's a fitness trend that you absolutely hate? And I think we should specify. We don't probably hate anything. Like, what's one that annoys you? Is there any that grinds your gears?
A fitness
That,
trend.
yeah. So, like, banding everything, mate. I just fucking hate those guys banding everything. Oh, those tripod wankers. I hate people who use tripod.
I think we are all of them, mate, to be honest. So we can't really say too much. Again, yeah, I just don't give a shit about what other people do. Like,
No.
as long as it's not like actually impacting me, you know what I mean? Like, for example, if in a gym somebody was doing something that like stopped me from being able to train, like they broke all the equipment or something, I'd be like, oh, well, that's annoying. But
Yeah.
just leave people to do what they want to do. Yeah, people ban things a lot and ban them maybe incorrectly or not very effectively. But we're not very good for these questions because we don't let stuff wind us up.
No. There's not much that really
You know
annoys
what?
us.
This is why we're shit podcast hosts. This is why we shouldn't have a podcast, because we
Yeah,
need to
we need to be
hate
more
everything.
controversial. Yeah. No, you know, I'd say one trend, and it's not even a fitness trend, but like I think everybody speaks nowadays in absolutes. And I find it mental how people can get in arguments, and like you see like debates on podcasts or debates on Instagram comments regarding how you should be training, and it's like, or what you should be doing. It's like, why do people give a fuck? Like, do
But
what
I
you
think that's
want.
always been a thing. I don't think that's a
Yeah.
trend. I think that's probably just
No, that's
us
what I mean. No.
noticing it
That's
more.
what I mean. But like, I feel like nowadays with like, let's say, more information available to us, and like, it's easier, I'd say, to get your foot in the door in the sense of actual knowledge. So many people will just read for like, let's say, a couple of months or listen to a few podcasts, and they instantly think this is the only way and this is how it should be, and they go to war with that. And I don't think that's a fitness trend. I think it's just how people are. People are balanced in situations where they think they've got a bit of knowledge.
Yeah.
But I almost think like, again, I find it mad that people even like care more than like just it's my opinion. Like, that's cool. You know, if someone was to systemically disagree with every single thing I do in the gym, I would literally be like, sound cool. I'm not going to be arguing my case and saying this is why I do it. If they ask me a good question, I'll happily explain why we do what we do. But if someone was to come in, this is wrong, that is wrong, I'd be like, okay, cool. I wouldn't even want to hear. I wouldn't care. I'd be like, sound.
Yeah,
Crack
it's
on.
the same with the whole like social media now. Obviously, everybody's just trying to fight for the user's attention, but it's like these 3 exercises that you must be doing, or you know, the one exercise that you've never heard of that you have to be doing and shit. And it's like there isn't any 3 exercises that you have to be doing. There isn't anything that's like groundbreaking. Like I had a client ask me a question yesterday, and he was sort of saying like, oh, I see sort of, you know, quite a few of the same exercises, like you do it and your clients do them. And I was like, yeah, because they're good exercises and it's movement patterns. That's all it is. Like training is just a sequence of movement patterns. That's all it is. And you need to be ticking off certain movement patterns based on musculature that you want to target. It's that's it. And that sounds quite complicated for somebody who doesn't really understand it, but it basically means you need to move your body in certain ways to target different muscle groups. Like whatever exercise you do is almost, it's not irrelevant, but it's irrelevant compared to what someone else is doing. Yeah. So like I have some clients that do a barbell back squat. I have some clients who can't think of anything worse. I have some clients who do a hack. I have some clients who have to do a pendulum because they don't have a hack. I have some clients who do a belt squat, a split squat because they don't have any squat variations or it causes issues. Like it's all the same really in terms of like what the actual goal is, which is just moving through space through a movement pattern from A to B with good form and doing it over time and getting better at it. So yeah, there's no, I guess that's a trend thing that's like exercises you must do, or even like now it's sort of like this is going to target this area and you have to have it exactly at this degree angle and stuff. Like we say that, like now there's people who like put reels on, it's like they'll go on about like the most intricate details in regards to training, and it's like,
oh, mate, I got a comment on a
over
TikTok
exaggerated.
I got a comment on a TikTok about like what degree of force should be applied on a single arm pull down that you're doing here. Like what angle of force? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the like? I'm sorry, I'm not getting out. What was it? A protractor? Is it a protractor?
Yeah.
A
Get a protractor out.
Yeah, and seeing like I'm just gonna set it up and go, okay, this feels good.
Yeah.
Or really, this
I had
doesn't.
a guy message me yesterday saying, I put some stories on yesterday. Obviously, whenever we don't train together, we seem to put our training on our story.
Yeah, no, mate. The reason why I do it, and I'm probably saying for you, just that paces me.
Yeah,
it keeps me pace, so I don't just rush from set to set.
But yeah, a guy asked me, he was like, do you think a 45-degree angle is okay for a single arm pull down? I literally just put, if it feels good, then yes.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, yeah, you could argue, well, the more vertical you are, is going to be hitting more of the vertical fibers. It's like, yeah, but it's biasing a certain area slightly. Like, yeah, it's really not. And again, like we always say, people will go, you know, on a high incline press, they'll go, is this for chest or shoulders? Both. Like, I would say both. Like, yeah, it's not. We're not trying to isolate a certain muscle group. Not every movement has to be in isolation.
No, definitely. Right. I'll see what Sanaa thinks. Sanaa, can you hear me? Sanaa, what fitness trend do you hate that has come about since you started training? Any trends? Come on, you're more opinionated than me and Finn. Like you're a little bit more.
You have something about you. We're just boring.
Yeah, we're
basically calling me a bitch.
No, we're calling you a bit. No, not at all.
No.
Come on, there's surely one thing that you're just like, nah, I don't like that trend.
The one that we were speaking about yesterday.
Oh yeah, there was one we actually spoke about yesterday.
And you were saying stuff about it as well.
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, you train to failure. You train with reps in reserve, and instantly you're like, fucking, oh, I can't train to failure anymore. I'm battered.
Yeah,
I don't really think that makes too much sense. Like when someone transitions, and it's like,
it's not when I hate the trend. It's
the opinions change. Yeah. It's not that we hate the trend. That's what. Yeah, it was just we spoke about it.
Yeah. I think people are just. I just think it's that people are easily influenced. And also like psychology is insane. Like if I was to say to you something like, "Oh, mate, we're going to be doing this, and you're going to be battered from it," you'll be expecting to be battered from it. Like I will never say to a client like, "Oh, this training is going to absolutely ruin you" or anything like that. I'll be like, "This is what we're going to do. This is how I want you to progress. I want you to send videos and train with good form, and I'll let you know if I'm happy with the proximity to failure, if I think you can get more out of your training." I'll never say within X amount of weeks you're going to be fucked, because then they're going to think that. Obviously they're going to think that. Like you can almost dictate exactly how someone thinks by telling them something, especially when you're a coach and they're paying you. Like,
and they respect your opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're going to say this is going to happen at this week, and people will then just preempt that, and that will happen because they think it's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll start. Cool.
Okay, mate. Have you got another question?
Have you not got your questions up, mate?
Yeah, I have, but I'm on the timestamps as well. I'm multitasking.
I'm sorry. Right. So good question. This is actually from Alex Kingsley 45. As always, Alex. Hopefully you're doing well, mate. It's been I think I spoke to him around back end of the year. So hopefully you're doing well, mate. Not good to hear, mate. He's João Cancelo's biggest fan.
Oh no.
And binned out. Well, binned off after what?
Turn to a Bayern fan.
Yes. So I'm guessing he's going to. Now, to be fair, he's a Man City fan. I mean, he's probably a little bit like plastic anyway, so easily can ship off to Bayern for 6 months. So he's asked, do you think untested feds should put a minimum age on their contest, e.g. over 22? And I've actually thought about this before, and I think this isn't a bad idea. I don't think they will do it, but it's not a team bodybuilding class in the PCA.
Yeah, I think from a moral standpoint, it's not a bad idea, but they won't do that just because they're not going to reduce their pool of people. They're going to want money. Yeah. So I think, again, like we've said this numerous times, like at the end of the day, bodybuilding is just a sport. It's not, it's the same with any sport. Like it's not really about anything other than making money. Like that's what the world is about. Like that's how things work. And it'd be nice if it was like, all right, PCA, for example, have said that you can't enter until you're 22 as a minimum, or whatever it may be. You think, right, that's cool. That makes sense. They're trying to look after people, so they're not, probably using gear too early and things like that. But yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think what difference in theory is it going to make if it's 22 or 20 and then juniors and stuff like that? Like, I kind of agree with no teen class, because I think if I was to see a 17 or 18-year-old turn up and they were let's say drugged out their minds on PEDs, I'd be a bit like you're still young. You're still
but then what's the difference between them being 18, 19 or 20, 21?
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that. There's pros and cons to either side. I think it's one of those sort of things that, unfortunately, when it comes from a business standpoint, a business is not going to shy away people that would want to compete. And even though there's going to be a greater priority, obviously, or greater proposition of people in, let's say, the adult realms, juniors, etc., it's one of them. There's still juniors and teens that want to be competing, and I just think another federation would open their doors and say, "Yeah, cool, we'll do it," and they'll be making money. So it's you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And there's pros, there's cons. I think getting being able to submit some bloods. We spoke about this before, but being present with blood work, you pay for a blood test when you're at the show, just so you know the damage you're doing. Things like that, I don't think it'd be a bad idea.
I think it should just be I think that'd be class if it was But when you sign up to do a show, included within the price, and obviously they just increase the price, is basically you get a full blood panel, you get your bloods done, and then you get it explained to you. And then also anybody who's absolutely fucked, they can be like, right, look, you really need to look after yourself. People who are well educated and who kind of know what they're doing, they'll be like, yeah, cool, and I expect them to be out of range and so on and so forth. But you'll get people who don't have a clue.
No.
And it's just I obviously there's so many horror stories that happen, and usually it's obviously right at the high level because people just get to the point where they don't care about their health anymore. It's all about whether or not they're getting bigger or they're going to win or they're bigger than whoever, whatever it may be. But even at the amateur level, if you can, like, when people are sort of getting into competing, if they get, oh shit, right, I didn't know that this was important. Like, it sort of gets them to realize that as they progress.
Yeah. No, I think we've said that before. Like, you pay and then you get it done either sometime like around the prep, let's say around the competition or on the show day or whatever, or the day after, like after you're done. It's like, right, cool, you're done, bloods. And that's what it is. And yeah, you mate, peak, like getting your bloods done, peak, like, let's say prep, when you're stepping on stage, your bloods most likely are going to be pretty bad. But having that explained to them and saying this is what you're doing, and ignorance is bliss. So many people just will avoid getting their bloods done because it's like,
don't really want to see it.
They'll get their bloods done. And admittedly, I do this as well when it comes to I get it done when they're going to be bad and when they're going to be good. But anybody can get their bloods done 8 weeks into a cruise, 10 weeks into a cruise, and everything looks relatively okay. But that's 4 weeks of a year, and the other potential of 4 weeks of 6 months, and the other 5 months are horrendous, or not as good as they could be. But because you just avoid it, you think, oh yeah, I'm fine. My last bloods were fine. But that's only a snippet of the actual scale. And let's say PD use is similar to obesity. It's not just the one day, it's the continued use of them. You can be obese for a day, sound, it's not going to affect you. You can be on steroids for a day, sound, it's not going to affect you, other than you're never going to be natty again. Once you've handed that in, you are never naturally cheat. Yeah, you're an awful life. Yeah, but in all seriousness, from a health standpoint, you can be blasting tren and everything for a day. Once those esters have cleared, it's probably not going to actually impact you that much, but it's more so the impact of it long term of substance use and substance abuse when it comes to competing.
I only feel tren.
You only feel tren? Ah, okay. Fair enough, man. Yeah, I don't even feel anything. I'm so numb.
Will Razzo, it's not even a question, but he just said, Reece does know he can't take gear in prison.
Yeah, you can probably smuggle some stuff in. So yeah, you could probably smuggle some stuff in. I bet, mate, there's definitely PDs in prison, 100%. Like, they would be snuck in 100%. So I reckon I could probably speak to like the biggest dude and say, yo, bro, hook me up. Come on. So yeah. Right. We've been asked, what's your salt intake, mate? You spoke about your salt, your potassium, I think last week, due to your high blood pressure, because your heart's going to explode.
Yeah. I'd have to have a proper look, to be fair. I haven't checked it directly in a long time. Basically, I will have pretty much 1 to 2 grams of salt, which is low salt, on each of my meals. So, on meal 1, 2, 3, and 5.
You have it at 5, mate. You hold that water overnight. Oh,
yeah.
God.
So I want a heavy weigh in the morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, what? And I say 1 to 2 because I'm not weighing it out every single time, because I've done it enough times in the past that I know that it's 1 to 2 grams. Oh, I also have it in my intra. So
yeah, I was going to say,
if we were to round that up, that'd be potentially 8 to 10 grams of low salt a day. That's not including salt from food. No wonder I've got high blood pressure, mate. I'm going to die.
Yeah. Mine's similar, to be fair. I only have salt in 3 of my meals in my intra, and it's like 2 grams, so it would be 8 grams per day, pretty much. But I usually work it up a little bit as my water gets higher when I diet, because I start drinking a fucking load of water. And
also, what I would say as well is, generally I'll add a little bit more in the summer months when I'm sweating more in the gym, because I'm going to lose more through sweat. Yeah. Whereas
through your hands sweat a stupid amount. You literally, Finn loses about 1 litre of water through his hands per session. It's vile.
Yeah, my hands sweat, but Reece's hands are fucking grim.
My hands are fine.
Look,
I do my hair before my session.
Reece's hands, I've never not been sticky.
No, they're not, mate. They're fine now. My hands are good. Look at them.
I can see that they've got stickiness on them.
No, mate, they're fine.
You'd be classing goal, mate. You wouldn't even need gloves. The ball, how sticky your hands are, the ball would just.
Yeah,
I can tell. Right. I go on a machine after you, and it's like, oh, I'll grab a D handle after you, and it's horrible.
Sticky. That's what it is, right? Also, mate, this is from Argon, and it's, he's asked questions about fatigue before, and it's like, why the fuck do you like this? Just a bit, it's a bit too much. And it's like, just don't worry, mate. Deload. He's asked, can you remove accumulated fatigue in 1 week? How long is a bit of strength? How long is a bit? That's an awkward question, isn't it? Because it's like, so you're just going to go from max fatigue to 0, no fatigue. What happens if you had a poor night's worth of sleep, or if you had a nightmare, or if you, let's say, I don't know, you woke up and you were like, oh no, I've got to pay my bills and I'm going to struggle.
Is similar to what we spoke about earlier in terms of like everything's in absolutes, and people think like, so you'll have X amount of days and that will fully clear fatigue and stuff. It's like, it's impossible to say. Like, again, it's dependent on the person. Like, I'll have clients who take a full week off for a deload because that's what seems to work well for them. I have clients who take 2 days off and then have a devolume week, or people who don't like to take time off the gym. So we'll just go in with like a sort of deload kind of training regime for that week, whatever it may be. Like, so yeah, just, it's one of those. It's like, you don't want to say just do what works for you, because people don't know what works for them until they actually sort of, trial things and basically learn from it. But yeah, like, take 2-3 days off. Do you feel ready to go back in the gym yet? Do you want to go back in the gym yet? Do you feel fresh? Are you sleeping well? Is your digestion okay? Like, what were the signs that made you think that you were fatigued in the first place? Are those
when
signs
they start to go,
deteriorating? Are they diminishing as you push through a deload? Like, for example, if you've got niggles that like every session your joints are just hurting, take a few days off. How do your joints feel after 4 days? Still not great. 5 days, getting better. 6 days, yeah, they feel great. Cool, go back into training. Like, it doesn't need to be, it has to be this amount of days and you have to do exactly this. Like, usually the same kind of things work for most individuals. So like, if I was to say a standard deload for my clients, it'd probably be 4 to 5 days off followed by a devolume week. So they do 1 set less on everything in the week that they go back into training. That is what I would say is generally what I'll work for most people, to pull away a good amount of fatigue, set up another mesocycle, which could run anywhere from 4 weeks to maybe 16 weeks, depending on that individual and how hard they train and stuff. No,
not 5 weeks with a set deload.
Yeah, it's exactly 5 weeks, and it's every single person is absolutely trashed by week 6, so they have to deload. Everyone, the same.
Every single person.
Everyone's the same. Everyone's the same.
Sad. Sounds a bit generic, that, doesn't it?
No.
Don't know how it does work.
No,
not generic. No, fair enough. Right, moving swiftly onwards. Your question, mate.
This is from Mario Smilas. How do you plan your progressions on the main lifts?
I don't really plan. It's obviously you want to get stronger, but yeah, we don't. I rarely have a plan. Like back in the day when I was actually learning how to train, I used to always go into the gym and I'd like almost write out. And I think at the start it's important. I say to clients when they start up, like, right, go in the first week, couple of weeks, and already have in your head what you're going to go for. But if you feel good, go for more, whatever it is. But plan out to take progressions. I judge 90% of my every set now of how I feel on the warm-up sets, how I feel going into the session. I have a rough idea of what I'd quite like to tick off, but I'm very good at understanding when a rep isn't, or a rep kind of progression isn't going to be there, or a low progression isn't going to be there, and kind of acting accordingly. And I think as well, it's like 90% mindset. Okay, I keep saying 90%. It's mostly mindset. If you're going in and you're like, right, I've nailed every variable, this is what I've done this week, and you can look systemically over your last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks of data, you'll most likely know what the best plan of action is going to be for you. Granted, that's going to take time to build up that kind of level of skill and that level of trust. I was actually having this conversation with Sanaya yesterday. So she's been pretty stressed, got a uni deadline, like sleep's been a bit off. Like she didn't get to bed the night before till like 1 a.m. But I was asleep like 2 hours earlier than her. And she trained yesterday and she did 2 reps of a leg press that she's done like 7 or 8 reps on. And she failed a Smith squat before that on like 2 and a bit plates when 2 plates flew on a warm-up set. And like I said to her, like, mentality is everything. Like one thing goes out of line for somebody, their whole session can be thrown off, and it can be where like it can impact everything. Where like a few things can go out of line for me. Granted, I try not for them not to occur, but I still mentally in the zone where if I feel good, I'm going to go for a low progression. That's usually what I look for. So yeah, I don't really plan out progressions like and pre-plan, but it will usually be a case of, can I add more load to the bar? If so, I'm taking that low progression.
It is like a skill though, isn't it? Because like if you think back to a few years back, like we were awful at that. Like if one thing didn't go right, we'd both get pissed off, or like it'd end up being like, it wouldn't ruin the session, but like, for example, when we used to train at Pure, if that hack squat didn't go well, we'd class that as a shit session. It's a shit session. It's like you learn and your mindset develops. Like again, I say it to clients all the time now, like, you know, it's a skill, like being able to control your mentality almost completely is a skill, like a massive skill. Not many people can do that. Like, it's difficult. It's really difficult. It's the same with like injuries especially. Like, the amount of times I'll have clients like just on at me about injuries, like, oh, this is happening. It's like, yeah, it's frustrating, but moaning about it is not going to get you anywhere. Like, you know, we've got to work around it. How can we work around it? Yeah. You know, how can we try and manage it? How can we try and, you know, rehab that injury while still working around it in terms of training? Like, I feel like people almost just sort of, you get an idea in your head, for example, oh, I'm injured, I'm fucked, I can't train. And then that's all they think. And they keep telling themselves that. And it's like, right, yeah, you can't do what you were doing before because you've got whatever injury it may be. But what can we do? Okay, we can't do a hack squat. So let's try and do a split squat instead. Yeah, something that's going to require a lot less loading and so on and so forth. So yeah, like, I know that's kind of off the tangent from the question, but if we were looking at trying to give a sort of an answer that people could take forward a little bit easier, and I know you say the same kind of thing, but generally what I'll say to my clients when I'm setting them up is I'll say, right, so if we're looking at training and we're looking at a very sort of basic model to progress your training over time. Yeah. So when we're looking at our training, what we're trying to do in the long term is be able to progressively overload that training. Yeah. Either through adding more weight over time, reps over time, tempo, etc. Like, there's always going to be a way that we can improve. But generally, if we're looking at reps and weight, like, we might have given rep ranges, and we'll always take the piss and say like, oh, you have to get to the top of your rep range. Like, what generally is going to be the, if you like, the easiest way of visualizing it is like, let's say you've got a rep range 7 to 10, for example. If you hit that rep range, if you're in that rep range and you cannot get any more reps, let's say you get 8 reps and you fail on your 9th rep, like, next week, why wouldn't you go heavier? Like, yeah, you can potentially go and get an extra rep, and that'd be great. But also, and I think, again, from a psychological perspective, a lot of the time, if you're going in on the same weight, especially if you've hit the same reps a couple of weeks running, you're already going into it thinking, fucking hell, I've done this two weeks running, I'm doing the same reps, I'm not progressing it. Just add a little bit of weight. Go 1.25 heavier per side. Like, you know, worst case, you lose a rep. Cool, you're still in the rep range. You got 7 and you got a load progression. Do it again the next week. Right, okay, you only got 6. Okay, cool. Right, let's see next week, go back to what you did 2 weeks ago and let's beat that 7 that you got, whatever it may be. Like, that is going to be an easier way of progressing your training in the long term than being like, try and add a rep, try and add a rep, try and add a rep, try and add a rep. I'm at the top of the rep range now. Now add a 1.25. Try and add a rep. And it's also going to be a lot slower, like, because it could take you 8 weeks to add 2.5 kilos, which you could have added in the second week. Like, and again, you know, a lot of it comes down to, before you even worry about that, are you actually training well? Are you actually training accurately? Are you training safely? Are you actually pushing yourself to the level you need to?
That's what we've said, like, before, like, the fight or flight. Like, before, so the other day on that leg press set, I did 13 plates per side, most weight I think I've done on that leg press, and I haven't done it for like 6 weeks. So I easily could have been like, right, I did a different leg press last week. I was in Canada the week before I was deloading. Then I was in Canada the week before while I was training as well. And then the last time I've done this is so long. But I look at the 13 plates and I'm like, right, I feel good. Everything's firing. Let's go for 13 plates. And if I got 13 plates, I was like, right, cool, let's go heavier. Let's go for something I've not touched before. And that thought of going on the 14 plate per side.
I think I told you to do that.
No, we both were like, do go heavier. And you were like, go heavier. But it wasn't in my head. Like, I didn't say to you, oh, no, mate, I can't. We both just looked at each other and we were like,
I just can't,
mate. No, but mate, some people would look at it and go, I've already done my top set. I'm not going heavier. Or they would have looked at it and gone, no, I'm not doing 14 because of X, Y, and Z. But I said this to Snai yesterday, like, I'm before that set, like, right, let's fucking go. This is a good set. This is already a good set in my mind because it's something new and it kind of pushes me to be like, this is a bit scary, but I want to get after it. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, when they start out training, they have that, like, that fear is something and they'll go, I'll go a bit lighter. Because stay within their comfort zones. And training shouldn't be within your comfort zones. Putting on muscle shouldn't be within your comfort zones. So, yeah, part of it.
I do think as well, like, just before we go to the next question, that your warm-up sets are going to be quite important in regards to that.
Snai's leaving, and she just stood there, mate. She stood behind the camera. Do you want to give me a hug? Come on, give me a hug.
I was just going to say goodbye, but I don't want it to be on the podcast.
No, are you on the podcast?
I'm not cutting it out. I don't have time to cut it out. Sorry that you have to go through this, everybody watching.
Someone's going to screen record that.
podcast.
No, we'll keep it on.
I'm not taking that out now.
No, Finn's saving that. This podcast is not getting uploaded. This is staying with Finn. Right, cool. So
no, I was gonna say, like, a lot of people that's quite important in terms of your warm-up sets, because like a lot of people will look at what they maybe did last time and they'll go, all right, so that means this is what I should be doing this time. But again, how often have we done warm-up sets and gone, I feels really, really good today. Like, I'm not going to worry about what I did last time. I'm feeling great. I'm going to make sure I go heavier. Like, more often than not nowadays, like, I won't even really look at, like, I'll look at what I've done last time, but I won't really be like, right, okay, so this is what I have to do. I will just base it pretty much entirely off how I'm feeling and how the warm-ups are feeling. And again, like I say, it's not just like, oh, well, today I'm feeling shit because I had a shit night's sleep and I was pissed the night before. That's only every Saturday into Sunday. Sunday's a rest day, so it's all right. I can get pissed on Saturday.
Rest day. We get pissed every Saturday. It's fine. Like, honestly, I get pissed every Saturday, but cool. Sunday's a rest day. Ready to go.
But like, if you're nailing those basics, if you're getting good sleep, if you're eating, especially if you're in a progressive phase, like if you're in a gaining phase, you don't need to be going into the sessions going, oh, this is what I should be doing. You should be going in just thinking, I'm going in with the thought process of just getting the most out of every single set. And if you're nailing those other variables, then you're going to progress anyway by doing that.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I've been asked, and this is a question you can say for you, to be fair, as well. Harvey, one of my clients, do you know anyone else going for a pro card in men's physique, or are you just focused on you? And I kind of relay that to you and say, do you know anybody you're going to be competing against? And unfortunately, Harvey, I know a few people who are like going and they're going to be very good, but I'd imagine, because I'll be going for my pro card in Poland, and then if not in Spain, and then not, I think, in Italy, like there's going to be a lot of dudes who I probably don't know who are going to be really good. And I don't want to be like just focused on myself, but what benefit is there to worry? Like, I wouldn't care. If I saw somebody who looked fucking awesome 2 weeks out from the show, I'd be like, sound sick, like that's good. I want that. I remember going into my last prep and I was saying to you, Finn, like multiple times, I want there to be good people. I don't want it to be, oh yeah, it's a shit junior lineup. I want it where the people are good. When I saw Axel in the final, Alexandru, or whatever his name is, like I think 2 weeks out from the finals, I was like, sick, he looks fucking awesome. Let's go. Like I was excited.
It was on the day that I showed you hit.
No, I saw that someone had sent me his stuff before, and I thought
you didn't know he was a junior.
No. I'd been sent his stuff, but I didn't put one. You can't really recognize when someone's like, he had his beard, and then he had obviously a tan. When people shave their beard off and they get like haircuts, like you can't really tell with some people. But yeah, when I saw him, I was like, shit, he's a junior. I remember saying, fucking hell, fair enough. And he was like, we said this before on the podcast. He was like, he came up to me, you a junior? I was like, yeah. And I was like, so we're up against each other. And he was very like almost defensive. And I was like, it's gonna be fun. Let's have a good time. Like, this is what it should be. This is what competition's all about. Like, the work's done. So yeah, I'd want to be up against people who are good. If I'm going to win a pro card, I need to be up against people who are good, because it will be a good standard show. And yeah, it'll be sound. So do I know anybody else? Well, I know a fair few people in the UK who are very, very good, and it'll be exciting to see where I place in line of them. So yeah. What about you, mate? Do you know anybody you're up against?
No.
Is it because everyone else is working in the shadows and you're just...
No, it's because I'm working in the shadows.
Oh, is that you're working in the shadows?
Yeah. So I don't concern myself with those that work in the light. I work in the dark.
Okay. You just work in the dark, yeah. Fair enough. That makes sense, mate. Look it out. Right. Have you got any more?
I've got a few from the same guy. So Ben Ridges asked a few questions. So please explain lengthen and shorten positions, how and when to program based on position, and examples of lengthened, shortened.
This is one where I felt like we could have probably started on. It's hard to give a cliche, like a one size fits all sort of answer to this. Like, if we think about lengthen and shorten, so the lengthen range is going to be when a muscle is in its kind of stretch position. So, and then likewise a shortened range when the muscle is contracted. So in that kind of end point, should we say? So for example, a leg extension, the shortened range is when your quads extended or quads shortened, knees are extended, legs are straightened. The lengthen range is going to be when your knees are flexed at the bottom. So that would be that. And when it comes to programming, it's going to depend ideally on where the session is, what the session is, and how the kind of exercises fall. But if we were to look at, let's say, Pull musculature, easiest example. The ability to get the lat short already is going to be harder just because the lat's not very strong in the shorter range. So ideally, you'd want to pick exercises where the alignment can bias the lat initially, and you can train it in the shorter range, because once your lat is somewhat tired, the ability to get any muscle short diminishes as we get deeper into the session, more so specifically for the muscles that are already weaker in that shortened range. So for something like lats, ideally, you'd want to place the kind of, let's say, the shortened work, if we say it like that, when it comes to the lat being fresh. But you could argue, let's say, a few other kind of examples, but again, it's hard for me to kind of give a blanket sort of answer to something like that.
Yeah, I think it's massively overanalyzed as well. Like,
yeah,
in very
you can train a short muscle late in the session.
Yeah.
You can train a muscle in the short range late, and you're still going to get something.
It's literally like it's the tiniest of percentages, like, as to whether or not it's really important. Like, basically, like, in very sort of simplistic terms, and again, it won't end up being simplistic because it's dependent on a scenario, but like, every single muscle is going to be stronger when it's lengthened than when it's shortened. But then you'll go, oh, well, how come the top of a leg press is easier than the bottom? It's like, well, because your knees are extended. So you're basically, the moment arm is like, there is no moment arm to the knee basically at the top of the rep. It's the same with the top of a squat. Like, you could stand at the top of a hack squat all day long if you're locking your knees out. That doesn't mean that you're stronger, your quads are stronger when they're shortened. It means that there's very minimal challenge to the quads there because the moment arm is non-existent basically. So yeah, like, ultimately, muscles are stronger when they're lengthened than when they're shortened. So you would want the majority of your, let's say, compound work and heavier work to be more lengthened focused. For example, like something like an RDL, hip hinge, more challenging in that lengthened range, which is good because that's going to match the strength profile of the given musculature. But again, the reason that it is more challenging in the lengthened range is because of the moment arm. It's not because of the barbell doesn't change. It doesn't change weight at the bottom versus the top. It's where your hips are in relation to the bar. And again, as much as I'm trying to say, like, making it simple, it isn't that simple, and it depends on the exercise and the scenario. But to keep it simple, don't overthink it. Don't over analyze your tempos. Just control the eccentrics, because we're a lot stronger when a muscle is lengthening than when it's shortening. So control your eccentrics, spend more time there than you would on the contraction or the concentric, sorry. So more control when it's lengthening, be more powerful when it's shortening. Otherwise, control the changes of direction, and you don't really need to think about it much else than that, to be honest. I think you can overanalyze it all, but if you're just trying to keep it simple, then just focus on those things.
Yeah. So do you want to do one more from him, and then we'll wrap it up if that's all right, mate?
Real quick one, and then we can maybe do one more. Any clients you've had to release / not accepted?
I'd say a few with, like, where I've kind of looked at them and thought, like, this isn't probably a client that matches up well. And I've kind of, like, I've said that to them, not in a rude way, but just kind of said, right, I don't think with where your goals are, I'm probably going to be the coach for you. A few weeks back, I actually had a client reach out to me regarding her mum and saying if I could coach her. And it was more so like from a health standpoint. And I kind of just said to her, like, you could easily be doing this yourself. I can happily help. I can advise. I don't need to be paid, but like taking on as a client, like, it's not really a match for what I'm really after. And I think when you start out coaching, saying yes to many situations is almost like, I wouldn't say it's a good thing, but it's what you almost need to do. But then understanding not your limitations, but like when something's right and when isn't, is also a bit of a skill that you get better at. And I think that's definitely something that we've become more accustomed to in the last probably year or so, I'd say. So
I think as well, like, with how we coach, and we've said this before, like, we will ask and try and get the most out of people. Like, that's the whole point. Yeah, what's the point of being coached if you're not getting the most out of the service? So like, we'll have times where we have to say to people, like, look, ultimately this isn't really working in terms of, you're either not putting in the effort that you need to put in, or I'm not seeing the commitment that I need on your end for you to get results. So either you improve or we're wasting our time. We're both wasting our time and you're wasting your money. Like, we've had to have those conversations loads of times.
It's not nice, but we're not cheerleaders.
It's not, but it also, yeah, exactly. We're not going to be just going, if someone's checking in every week and they're not doing or they're not checking in at all, or they're checking in and it's just like, yeah, everything's sound, and then they've not trained or not put in any data or they're not going in the right direction, and you're just wasting your time as a coach, and it's not enjoyable then, and it brings you down and it impacts your other clients as well. But yeah, I remember I sacked a PT client once.
Sacked a PT client?
Yeah. Did I tell you?
Yeah, I think you told me. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was a young girl, and her dad used to pay and she was just like, she wasn't interested at all, and she was really just hard work. So I think maybe PT'd her for like maybe a few weeks, maybe a month or two, and it was like 2 or 3 sessions a week as well. And I ended up just starting to dread them. So like in one of the sessions, I was like, you do know, like you do not have to come to these sessions. I was like, you can just go home. Like I don't want you to come to these sessions anymore. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah, like go home now. Like we were like 10 minutes in, and she was like, oh, okay. And then she went, and Shannon used to come and get the key from me in the gym.
And you cracked on with some arms. You just did some arms in the 15
minutes. Finished off with Shannon came to get the key. And she messaged me like, I'm here. And usually I'd say to my client, oh, I'm just going to quickly give Shannon the key and then I'll come back. I'll be like literally 30 seconds. And I just messaged her, said, wait, I'm coming. And she was like, what? And then I went, I was like, yeah, I'm not PTing her anymore. It's just like not worth it. If it's bringing you down that much, like, cause it was like, you're just dreading it. Like it's the most annoying hour where you're just like, oh, I'm not doing that. No matter how much I would get paid, I'm not going to do that.
Right. Last one, mate.
Oh, from me.
Okay. Oh yeah, I thought you said one more, and then maybe
I've got 2 more, but I can do one more.
Right, no, do 2. Do 2 quick ones.
When doing upper lower program, push next to push or flick between movements. Okay, so you're basically saying if you were doing like an upper session, would you have like 2 push movements next to each other, or would you do like push pull push pull?
Yeah, it depends on what you need. I think we've said this before. Like you could easily start off with pulls. The reason why we probably wouldn't, it's just from a stability standpoint. If your back's fucking taxed and ruined, and you've rinsed everything you can out your back's rinsed. You're probably not going to be able to brace and stabilize as comfortably on a press, which is going to affect your pressing. And stability is 90% of press. I stop saying 90%, Reece. A lot of press. I keep saying 90% for everything. It's 90% of it. It's 90% of that. 90%. Reece explains 90%. No. Don't know where I got 90% from today. But anyway, it's going to affect you. So in theory, you could do like, let's say, lateral, push, pull. What do you need? Do you need more chest? Do a pec ISO. Do you need more pull? Maybe do another pull. Or do you need more back? Then a bit of arms, and that could be an upper session. But if your back's really, really, really bad, you could easily do your pulls first. Like we did.
Saying like, would you do push, pull, for example? Or would you do push, pull, pull? You know what I mean? In terms of the order.
Yeah. Oh, so if it was given one option, I'd do push, pull.
I would rather keep them together from almost like a bit of like a blood volume standpoint, getting more of a pump.
I think as well, it's quite important to keep things in synergy. Like you're doing your pressing work and you're not having to kind of zigzag where you're also thinking, like, I'm pushing and I'm pulling,
Even little things like equipment in the gym. Like if you're in certain gym and it's like you got to go upstairs, then like for example in Ultimate Fitness, imagine if you were doing push and pull and you had to keep going up and down.
You racked up 20k steps by the end of the session. You'd be like,
just on that point, I actually quite like for my upper sessions clients to have, especially if their back is weaker, which I feel like most people's backs are going to be weaker than their pressing. Most guys, especially because, and also most people, because back is generally a harder body part for a lot of people to grow in terms of like connection and stuff. And also it's not as desirable as like growing your chest and your arms, like for a lot of guys. So I actually have quite a lot of people who have their pull movements first. And I think it ultimately gets them quite warm through the scapula before they're pressing. So it doesn't really take away too much from stability. And I wouldn't really have them doing like free weight presses probably after the pulls. They'd be on that machine-based pressing anyway.
Yeah, sound. All good. Right, we'll leave it on the last one by Lucky96. What are you doing? He's asked there. What are you doing? We're wrapping up the podcast.
Wrapping up the pod, mate. Yeah.
Wrapping up the pod. Right, that's it. Episode 80. Thanks as always. Hope everyone's enjoyed. We need to think of topics. That's what one thing we do need to think of. Or we need to get some better questions. So, guys, step it the fuck up.
Yeah, guys, I hardly got any questions this week, so please ask me some more next week.
Yeah,
no, shout out to Ben. Shout out to Ben Ridgers. He gave me a fair few on thingy, and we still didn't get back to one of them.
Yeah, we're not very good podcast.
We'll get back to it next week.
Yeah, we'll get back to you next week. Catch you later, man. Right, see you later, guys.